Hi, I'm Josh Group, Service Engineer for Indian Motorcycle. In this video, we're going to show you how to restore your aged leather to a like-new condition. To restore your leather to a like-new condition, we'll be using the Tan Leather Restore Kit, which consists of a cleaner, a dye, and a sealer. Also in the kit are 2 applicators, or 2 sponges, and a microfiber towel. All right. The bottles you see here will be different than the bottles in the actual kit. These are a bulk pack that we've used for testing purposes. Yours will be packaged so you'll get approximately 2 applications out of each bottle. We'll start off by removing the pieces from the bike, and then we'll remove the buckles from the bag. You do not need to remove any of the conchos or any of the actual rivets that are decorative in the bag. So to remove the buckle, we'll push both straps through, pull down, and slide the buckle off. And we'll do that for all 3 buckles on this bag and the 3 buckles on the other bag. This allows you to give a more even application to the strap itself. The first step of your process will be to use the cleaner, which is the green or the spray bottle, to clean the top oils and dirt from the seat. The first step is to wet your microfiber towel with water and then apply the cleaning solution in your spray bottle, either directly to the seat or to your microfiber towel, and then wipe the seat down. As you're applying the cleaner, you'll want to use straight wiping motions versus a swirling or a scrubbing pattern. Be sure you get in the seams and anywhere else where the leather may be partially hidden. Once you've completely applied the cleaner to the entire seat and the saddlebags, you'll need to let those rest and dry for approximately 20 to 30 minutes. So approximately 20 to 30 minutes has passed, and we can feel that the seats and the saddlebag are dry to the touch. So we know that the cleaner is done its job, and we're ready to apply the dye. Anytime you're applying the dye, you should use rubber gloves or latex or whatever, because the dye will stain your skin. It's also important as you're applying the dye, you're very fluid and very even with it, and don't get big globs or blotches. It will create dark spots in those areas. We recommend that you start on an inconspicuous area down below on the back side of the saddlebag, something like that, to kind of get the hang of how you're going to apply it before you move into more visible areas. It also helps, we found, that as you're applying it, you approach the seat in panels, and you'll apply to a panel and then move to the adjacent panel so you can work on and you can look at how the panels are going to match and get them colored evenly. You can apply more than 1 coat of the dye. It will get darker and darker. We've found that you get more than 2 to 3 coats on it and you'll get a colored appearance like an orange or a red. So we wouldn't recommend going more than 2 coats on the dye. So we're gonna start kind of down on the bottom side here with the applicator and the dye, but doesn't. So I'll apply a little bit to the applicator here. You see there's some on there. And then a little less on there. And then I'm just gonna start in kind of a wiping motion and not allow any blotches or globs or anything like that to get on there. It is acceptable. You'll get some dye on the decorative rivets and the conchos, when at the end of when you're dyeing processing that, the cleaner will take that right off. It's not recommended you get an excessive amount on there. You know, be in control of the stuff, but don't worry, it will get cleaned off. So you see what I'm doing is taking a small amount on the sponge, and then I'll just kind of dab it around and then come back immediately and wipe it into the seat, making sure it's spread around nice and even. You can see that the dye is already, you know, coloring the seat, making it darker. What's important is you don't leave big glotches or blobs or anything like that on the seat, and that it's colored nice and evenly. You will get dye in the stitching of the seat. That's completely normal. It's pretty hard to avoid. The sealer and that will get in there as well. The only issue with that is that your first time riding the vehicle, once you seal it and get going, some of that dye will release out of the stitching and may enter clothing or get onto your clothing. It is water soluble. It machine washes out, so it's not going to ruin your clothes or anything like that. You can see at this point, I've dyed the entire seat except for this very front panel. It's a pretty noticeable color difference. Keep in mind that when the dye is wet, it's going to appear darker. So I would wait for that first coat to completely dry in that before you decide if you're going to apply a second coat or not. Apply a little more. You can see that's still a little lighter than the rest of the seat. Be sure everything's completely smoothed out. Go over it, make sure you got everything completely even. And now you can see already the big difference between our dyed seat and our completely untreated saddlebag. We'll continue on. I'll dye both saddlebags and the bib. We'll let this dry and we'll come back and we'll apply the sealer. So you can see I've applied one coat of dye to this entire side panel, and you can still see a darker area towards the top here. You may never be able to match those perfectly, but I'm going to come back and apply some more dye to the bottom half here, and you'll see that they'll get closer. You see that the color difference is much closer at that point. Now, we'll flip over and do the lid. We'll look it over to make sure I didn't leave any blotches or globs or anything like that. Like I did on this strap. I'll set these side by side here just so you can see the difference. This is the one I just dyed, And this is the one where the leather is aged considerably. Now we'll go ahead and we'll dye this one. So I've completely dyed this bag now as well, and we're gonna let all three items rest and dry for greater than 5 to 6 hours. So now that we've allowed our leather to dry for up to 6 hours, at least 6 hours, we're gonna come back and use our sealer and seal the leather. The purpose of the sealer is to keep the dye in and keep the seat looking this color longer. You'll want to apply up to 3 coats of the sealer, allowing about 20 to 30 minutes in between each coat. Once you've applied your 3rd coat of sealer, you'll want the leathers, the seat and saddlebags to sit for at least 6 hours to allow them to completely dry. This will take longer in humid climates. To apply the sealer, I'm first going to wet the sponge, take some of the excess water out, and then use my sealant and apply it directly to the sponge. And then, just like we applied the dye, I'll start in nice uniform motions, applying the sealer to the seat. I'm going to go through and do this and cover each panel individually just to be sure I've got uniform coverage. So now that I've gone through and completely sealed both bags and the seat, what I'll do is I'll allow that to dry for 20 to 30 minutes, apply another coat, allow it to dry for 20 to 30 minutes, apply my last coat, and then I'll allow that to set up and dry for greater than 6 hours before I'll actually reinstall in the motorcycle and use it. A couple other important things, as you're going through and sealing the bag, you might notice you'll get some dye on some of the rivets. Down here you can see some as well, or you'll see dye or a copper color, a dark color, you'll see the dye on the actual concho itself. That cleans right off, just a rag and some of the cleaning agent, and that'll clean right off or wipe off, and you'll have shiny pieces again. The very last item, once you've applied this tan leather care kit, it's not a once and done. You'll need to reapply it roughly once every 6 months, depending upon where you live. If you're in a northern state, you might do it once a year. Southern state, you might do it twice a year. Each kit, when you purchase it, will be good for 2 applications. And then between each of the leather care kits, you'll use some of the leather dressing to go through and keep that looking nice between there. The last step here will be to apply our extra coats, put our buckles back on, and reinstall it on the motorcycle.